Get started this evening, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everyone. We'll start with our roll call here.
Rob Keller.
Here.
Tim Mills.
Here.
Sue Wilson.
Here, I thought we were alphabetical. so-
Well, you are, but I don't have my thing in front. My computer's not working. Donna Kramer. Here. Ben Metzger.
Here.
Matt Rankin.
Here.
And Ryan Worley. Here.
Next is any good news with Mr. Pence.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll start with the good news tonight. The 8th grade volleyball season, we wrapped it up, and it was one for the record books. There were 65 girls out for volleyball this year, and a lot of personal and team successes. A big thank you to the athletes and the parents for this year and their extra flexibility as we navigated through the season. Thank you to the bus drivers who accommodated the large team and made it so every girl could play in every match, providing an extra bus for each away game. Finally, thank you to Mark Putz, bus driver extraordinaire, for keeping the snacks coming for every away game and for ordering the entire team pizza at our last away game at Southeast Polk. We look forward to seeing these girls continue their athletic careers throughout the rest of this year and beyond. The Indianola Rugby Club team was currently at 4-2 at the time when this was sent in. All 4 wins have been by shutouts out of the 6 games. We have scored 138 points, while our opponents have only scored 41 total. We will have a bid for the state championship on October 30th as one of 8 teams in the state selected. I'm not sure how they've done after that, so keep you posted. National School Lunch Week, and so Abby Costigan asked if I'd be willing to help serve lunch at the high school. So I've included a selfie of myself and the high school staff. I had a privilege of working with them. I really had a great time, and to be honest with you, our kids are beyond respectful and polite. I can tell you that at least 98% of them went through, said please and thank you for everybody. I mean, it was just remarkable how well their manners were that day. Hopefully it continues. On October 13th at Blake Fieldhouse, the girls' volleyball team was crowned conference championships. Congratulations to them, and as they entered postseason play, where they played in the state tournament last Monday evening. The 162-member Pride of Indianola Marching Band finished up another great marching season. The band earned their 9th consecutive Division I rating, which is a school record, at the Iowa High School Music Association Marching Band Festival, and was 7th out of 12 4A bands at the Waukee Warrior Invitational. A special thanks to our adult and parent volunteers that assisted with uniforms, equipment, and pulling the trailers. Congratulations to the marching band students and all of their directors and support staff. Lisa Smith, middle school art teacher, has engaged students in art service projects and with community organizations. The Lions Club recently expressed their thanks for the money sticks the students created for the organization's auction with a thoughtful donation. The donation will be used towards further art projects. Thanks for your leadership, Mrs. Smith. Thank you to everyone who helped with hosting the All-State Music Auditions at Indianola High School. Over 1,500 high school musicians, directors, and guests were at Indianola High School for auditions. We have at least 16 students representing Indianola High School at the All-State Music Festival in Ames, November 17th through the 19th. This is one of the highest honors that an Iowa high school musician can achieve. Congratulations to, I won't read all the names, but you can feel free to look through them and their accomplishment. And the music department would just like to send a special thank you to our custodial staff for doing such a wonderful job of cleaning up the school before, during, and after the event. Also, thank you to Mitchell Sparks for his work getting us ready for the tech side of the event. Classroom teachers, we appreciate being able to use that room, and thanks for your flexibility in helping us support this enormous event. So it was an outstanding day for our students, so congratulations to all of them. Laura Ingalls Wilder teachers had a celebration as they have been released from the targeted designation by the state of Iowa for their special education population not making growth, which means they are making growth as determined by the state of Iowa. This took focused work, determination, and perseverance. They have so much to be proud of, moving equipment and pulling the trailer. got a double roles there. So they have worked hard, perseverance, and determination to make sure our students are being successful. So congratulations to the Lower Ingalls Wilder teachers. We had 4 students qualify for the Special Olympic State Bowling: Kayla Barth, Dean Davis, Dakota Courtney, and Justin Easton. Congratulations to them. Gracie Foster, a junior, and Emily Naughton, a senior, represented the Indianola High School at the state cross-country meet in Fort Dodge. This was Gracie's second time qualifying and for state, and Emily's 4th. Earlier this fall, the boys golf team took 4th place at the state meet, just 1 stroke behind 3rd. Preston Billy tied for 10th, which was good for second team all-state tournament. A few more things to add would be that Jackson and Preston both got first team all-state this year. Also mentioned that the boys won 5 meets this season, so congratulations to the boys golf team. The Indianola football team advanced to the second round of the playoffs after defeating Bondurant Far 35-13. Last Friday, they played Cedar Rapids Xavier, and unfortunately, they didn't come out on top of that game, but they had a great season, and we wish them continued success as they move on to their winter season, and good luck to football next fall. I hope I pronounced this right. Jana Wright was nominated for the Iowa Family Consumer Science Educators Outstanding New Educator Award for 2022 by Annette Duran, Director of Teaching and Learning, and Christy Ellis, Middle School Principal. And Janaya was recently awarded this distinction. Janaya Wright collaborates with other teachers and focuses on the specific knowledge and skills students need to be independent young adults. Project-based learning is evident in her courses, as well as building student-to-student and student-to-teacher relationships. I had the privilege of going to her class one day when they were working on their oven mitts and pot holders, and it was truly a great experience to watch how the kids interacted with each other and how they learned from each other. And they're better sewers than I was at that age, so kudos to them for all the work that they've done.
Thanks, Ted.
Yep.
Anyone else? Any board member reports? Any board members?
Yesterday, I had some time yesterday morning to stop at Emerson and hang out in the new science room for a little while. Got to talk to a lot of the students that were in there, and I know that we as a board will continue to talk about this in the future, but overwhelmingly, these kids are enjoying this program. Numerous kids said that last year they didn't like science because they were just reading about it in a textbook, and now they're actually seeing it. I think it's definitely the right place for our kids to be, and we need to really consider moving forward with that permanently for next year.
Anyone else? Anything? Just a reminder, the Veterans Day assemblies are this week, Thursday. Middle school is morning, 9:30, and high school's after.
The high school will be with us.
The high school's with you guys?
It's the one thing, yes.
Cool. All right. And then, if any of you guys plan to attend the spring musical for the high school, I think it's the Addams Family. I think they're trying to figure out how many shows they need to do, so if you want to buy tickets early, that way they're just letting the Indianola community before they let the bigger public know. So you can go online and get those if you want. So. Yes, and the football team season sadly came to an end. They did a great job. They did a great job. A lot of perseverance and discipline among those young men, and exemplified through their coaches. And
And
really
young
proud of
women,
them all.
and young women at volleyball.
Yes,
And-
yes. Sorry, I was
that's
just
it.
speaking.
No,
about
that's okay,
football.
but same thing, they took the team to 5 games and it was 11-15, so it doesn't get much closer than that.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was very impressed with our student section. They didn't cheer anything that was inappropriate, they didn't, sometimes these people, these student sections just cheer against each other and they forget about cheering their teams on. But I was very proud of our students, and even more proud that everyone made it home safely from all those events, because there's a lot of construction on I-80 right now. So, well done by everybody this fall.
Yeah. Cool. Next we have our consent, or no, we don't. Any delegations, petitions, communications? No. Next is our consent agenda in your board packet.
One question I have on the consent agenda, it said there was a number 7 waiver request for physical education, but I don't actually see it.
That was, yeah, we pulled it from the agenda and missed the consent piece. It's not out on the Department of Ed's site yet, so I apologize, that got missed.
I had a question. What is Bloom of Minnesota LLC?
It's a tech company that Ray spent some money at.
That Ray spends. That's a red flag.
Are you
I
good?
understand. And DDVI, what's that?
DVI is our construction company that's working at the middle school.
They're local.
And I assume that the numbers for Hogland Bus Company are in regards to the purchases we approved?
Yes. Mhm. From a year ago. It takes that long to order them.
I don't have any.
Utilities are pacing right on track every month.
They seem to be. I mean, I kind of look at it as at a yearly piece because it's, you have the fluctuations. So we look at history, and so last year we kind of looked at where we were utility-wise, and, the dollars that we use are minimal in our full entire budget. But we do watch them, and we do buy our natural gas from we pre-purchase it. It's kind of like you could do on a farm or something like that. So,
Any other questions on the consent agenda?
we are starting to get our open enrollment for next year. So people want to get their name in just so that they would be in an order if they were. Because if you had 27th graders, the first one would come in first. It's kind of first in. So.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion made by Donna,
Second.
seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is our presentations from our building administrators. So, who would like to go first? All right.
Jimmy over here.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Good evening. I am Brooke Mendoza. I am the principal over at Whittier. And I want to, have it pulled up, good. I want to take a few minutes to give you all a brief overview of our MTSS framework and our action plans for moving forward in our overall student achievement and growth this year. At Whittier, we're continuing to focus and grow in the areas of math, reading, and social, emotional, behavioral, mental health by improving our MTSS framework. A multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS, is a framework with a 3-tiered infrastructure that uses data to help match academic and social emotional behavior assessment and instructional resources to each and every student's needs. This year at Whittier, we worked through the SAMI process early in September, which is the self-assessment of our MTSS implementation in our building, to determine what our current reality looks like versus where we want our ideal state to be. The process helped us identify areas of achievement and areas of growth within our current MTSS practices in the areas of math, reading, and SEBMH. We will continue to set goals for these 3 areas based on our review. Across the board, we want to tighten up our MTSS framework, specifically focusing on our Tier 2 and Tier 3 supports. We would like to make sure that we're improving our database decision-making skills by making sure that we're taking a look at all of our students, meeting them where they're at, and then helping them achieve at least a year or more's worth of growth. The first area that I have up here is our reading. CKLA, we are currently in year 2 of implementation. And looking at our data from last year, at the end of the 21-22 school year, 77% of our K-5 students scored at or above benchmark on the fast reading assessment. And I had added a few additional indicators in here for your reference as far as what percentage of our students were assessed, what the breakdown was of proficiency by grade bands. And then I wanted to notate, by looking at last year's proficiency, the growth between the fall In the spring was 13%. So when looking at our current reality this year from our fast reading assessment, it showed that 69% of our students, K-5, scored at or above benchmark. So in thinking about the growth that was made overall last year with our first year of implementation in CKLA, and then the work that we're doing this year as far as tightening up our processes, we feel strong that this growth is very achievable again by growing 13%. So this year's goal by the end of the school year is that 82% of our K-5 students will meet benchmark in reading as measured by our district adopted screener, which is FAST, by May of 2023. So our action plan at Whittier this year in order to attain this goal is to tighten up our MTSS support framework to ensure that all students have every opportunity to make at least 1 year's worth of growth. Our process will be to have reviewed the self-assessment of our MTSS implementation, the SAMI, which we have already done, and prioritize areas for building growth that would have a direct impact on student achievement. 3 of the focal areas that we have identified as a leadership team are our infrastructure, assessment and database decision-making, and our intervention system. As a team, we will improve our self-efficacy around our multi-tiered system of supports framework through building PD, and in doing so, we will be utilizing our AEA supports, as well as building teams to help facilitate this learning. Our teams will use team-developed protocols to improve and drive staff discussions around data in order to identify students, align supports accurately, as well as track and monitor their progress. Our building data team, which includes our instructional coach, 2 teacher representatives, 1 for our K2, and then another teacher for 3-5, as well as our reading resource teachers and myself will be attending a 2-day conference in December. This conference is called Maximize Your Data. The focus of the learning around this conference will be to build capacity to be able to facilitate the use of database decision-making tools that are available within our MTSS framework. More specifically, what do we have available within FastBridge and our Panorama, our student success platform that will help us guide our decisions. We will be working to redesign what our data day conversations look like and have added data check-ins every 4 weeks to prepare for the next round of student-focused interventions. In addition, our teachers will be intentionally focusing on how they can extend learning opportunities to support our higher achieving students so that we can make sure that we are adequately doing everything to ensure they have the opportunities to make at least 1 year's worth of growth as well. And looking at our math, at the end of last year, 70% of our K-5 students scored at or above benchmark with our FAST math assessment. Our current reality is 69% of our K-5 students are scoring at or above benchmark on our fall FAST math assessment. Our goal by the end of this year, we would like to see 80% of our K-5 students meeting benchmark in math as measured by our district adopted screener. Looking at last year's growth, we noticed that we only had a 3% growth in math, and we realized that our goal of 80% creates an opportunity for an additional 10% growth, and that is lofty. However, we believe that's attainable. As stated above, with reading, our action plan at Whittier is to really tighten up the system of supports that we have, and that is also to be focusing on math, what we're doing with our intervention systems, how we're using the database decision-making opportunities to align interventions with our students to make sure that we're meeting them where they're at and helping them grow. Our action steps to attain our goals in this area with a couple additional pieces to focus on are similar to reading in terms of using our SAMI work and focusing on those goals that we've identified, as well as the information we learned from our Maximize Your Data conference next month to focus on defined areas to support self-efficacy around MTSS and math. We will work together also with our AEA supports to incorporate building PD opportunities focusing on these areas, most specifically database decision-making and properly aligning interventions in order to close learning gaps in math. And additionally, we would like to focus our efforts on improving our Tier 2 supports for math, We will do this by creating time and space to include math in our data day conversations. We have not done this in the past, but we are looking forward to extending our data days to take up 2 days. So we will have 1 day full of K2 grade level teachers. The next day we'll have 3rd through 5th grade, and then we will extend it to 2 hours so that we can have adequate conversations around literacy, math, and SEDMH. This year we will utilize our common planning days during our data dive weeks to focus primarily on diving into math. The next area are SEDMH, social, emotional, behavioral, mental health. When looking at our past data from the spring of '22, I looked at what our greatest strength was as well as what our greatest opportunity of growth was. Our greatest strength showed that 86% of Whittier Elementary students in grades 3 through 5 indicated that they felt connected to and supported by an adult in our building. This data was pulled from the Conditions for Learning survey that was taken in the spring of '22. Our greatest opportunity showed that only 46% of our students in grades 3 through 5th indicated that they felt physically safe while on our school grounds. Again, our action plan at Whittier revolves around tightening up our multi-tiered system of supports, which includes our student social and emotional wellness. We know that our students, like most adults, cannot pour from empty cups, and that doing our best to ensure basic needs are met is critical to their academic success. Ultimately, our goal at Whittier is for 100% of the students to feel a sense of belonging and to feel connected and supported by the adults in our building. With the data showing that this was only the case for about 86% of our students, we realize there's continued work to do in this area. Therefore, by the end of this school year, we would like to improve our percentage from 86% to at least 92% of Whittier students indicating that they feel connected to and supported by the adults in our building, based on the results from the Conditions of Learning survey. In terms of feeling physically safe while on school grounds, by the end of this school year, we would like to see 58% of the students at Whittier indicating that they feel physically safe while on school grounds based on these survey results. Our action steps to attain this goal are very similar to what I've talked about with literacy and with math in terms of tightening up our MTSS system. But as a building, we will strengthen our staff's understanding of SEDMH through a book study, hopefully during our second semester. The book is called the SEL Toolbox, and I've gotten some raving reviews from Irving staff members that have gone through this PD. We would like to identify ways to strengthen our universal instruction around SEDMH. We would like to take a look at zones of regulation, yoga for classrooms, and strategies possibly from our upcoming book study. We need to identify needs and create a streamlined system to strengthen our Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions to support our goals. We have already started utilizing small groups with our counselors for Tier 2 as well as check-in, check-out supports with a handful of students. We would like to continue collecting additional data from students around the why. So looking into the questions and diving into the data from last year's survey, we would like to analyze the questions and really take a good look at the perceptions and interpretations from the questions that were asked. Some of this can be gained by additional insight around feedback forms or possibly student groups that we would like to create in order to get some additional feedback on why did the results look the way they did, why do our students not feel safe in our building, what is the impact on that. I don't know that we can make adequate steps moving forward unless we have students really telling us what does this mean versus on an indicator of rarely, sometimes, always. Our building has been working hard this school year to create an infrastructure around building-wide common expectations and collectively identifying our guidelines for success at Whittier. We are finalizing this process right now. We're pretty proud about it. And we have begun to incorporate opportunities for celebrations around our building-wide expectations. We will continue to collaborate as a team to embed opportunities to work with students, staff, and families around our building safety goals, expectations, and plans. And then we will identify students who fell out on the survey last year in terms of not feeling like they have somebody in the building that they have a sense of belonging with and that they have a trusting relationship with. And we will create a plan to put a face with that name and make sure that there are staff members in our building making intentional steps to create those relationships. We have identified very lofty goals and set some high expectations as a building to meet these goals this year. And I am fortunate to have a team of highly qualified and dedicated teachers that are willing to go above and beyond to move these mountains. Thank you for your interest and your time learning more about the MTSS work that we're doing at Whittier. Do you have any questions?
What's your math intervention look like? Do you have someone that, I mean, if they're scoring below a certain level, what does that look like?
So right now we have time built into our schedule. Our resource teachers are primarily reading, but we do have time built into our schedule where our teachers are utilizing Tier 2 interventions. So in a couple of our grade levels, they have taken 2 skill deficit areas and they have rotated students around for a number of weeks to intervene. And then our special education teachers are working with the Tier 3 currently.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Brooke from the board?
Well, you may have answered the question I had regarding the 46% the physically safe question. So that conditions for learning survey pulls that, but it doesn't have any, I mean, it's kind of helpful, but it's not that helpful to not know
It's
anything that's what to do for it because it doesn't reach that out of the survey.
the conditions for learning survey, it gives us a lot of good data. However, sometimes I feel like when you really dive into those questions, based on the interpretation and the perception of the child that day, that's the reason why Tim and I, my counselor, want to dive deeper with some of these results because it's based on right now. And sometimes if we're having a bad morning, I think about my own kids, if I scoot them out the door and they're not happy with me and then 30 minutes later they have to answer a question whether they feel like people like them. I mean, sometimes that could skew the data just a little bit. And so we really want to find out. Also, when you're looking at the questions, there is kind of a rating scale of never, sometimes, often, always. And so that's difficult sometimes for all students to understand. It's not as simple as yes or no.
What does that even mean?
Yeah, so is this the same one where if they ask the same question 4 or 5 times if you don't answer it? So I guess my question is, I think 46% seems really low. And I think it's really hard to set attainable goals based on statistics that you just don't even know are accurate. And that's where I struggle with this. And I'm not, like, this is not specific to your
Right.
building, just as we've heard from all the buildings. You can't really realistically set goals on things that you don't know are actually factual. And so I'm just wondering, as a district, is there something better we can do? Because I have a hard time believing that less than half of our kids don't feel safe in your building. And so to me, I like your action steps. I think they're really good, but I mean, are they even appropriate? Because maybe realistically, we're at 90%. Like you said,
Right.
My kid's mad at me because I didn't make the right sandwich for his lunch, and you know,
Right.
he's.
And that's a possibility. When we sat down as a team and we kind of thought of the why does it look like this when, from the outside perspective, everybody loves Whittier. It's a great place to be. The kids are happy, they're smiling, the staff is happy. So when we kind of break down what are some of the reasons, in our action steps, we've looked at, well, we needed to create some building-wide expectations so that we can begin holding some accountability at recess, in the hallways. Some of our students, maybe they didn't feel a sense of safety because kids were running up and down the hallways. That's their perception, that's their interpretation. Maybe the assessment was taken close to the unfortunate incident that happened last year in Texas. It was close to the same time. Maybe they've seen things and heard things in the news that then kind of transpired their train of thought at school, which I've heard about these school shootings. Could that So maybe at Whittier, we need to educate them more on what is our safety plan, making sure that we have adequate instruction around our drills that we have every month.
When the kids take these, is there any definition of what sometimes, always, often mean? And even what the word safe means, right? Are there any, like, you guys proctor the tests for the kids. So are there any definitions that say, hey, often would be, twice a week or once a week, whereas sometimes is only...
It does refer to focusing on right now versus last year or 3 years ago. Little Johnny tripped me as I was walking outside. So it does reference to the notion of right now, but no, it doesn't necessarily do that. I do think that the data shows some validity and, okay, we need to dive deeper. So I do like that because that has caused us as a building to really look into the why and what can we do about that. I certainly want all of our students to feel safe in our school. So if that means we need to tighten up what we talk about as far as our safety plans in the building, what it looks like as far as building-wide expectations, and then holding our students accountable with behaviors, that's just one of our ideas that could help. And then really also having some student focus groups, especially in 4th and 5th grade, pulling some of our leaderships from our younger grade level, some of those students, and asking, what does this mean? What would you answer, and what does this mean? So that we have a better idea of their perception and their interpretation of the questions.
And the main point was if it's true, that's striking. And there needs to be major, I don't think it's accurate. I'm just saying if it were to be, then measures need to be like primary in that regard, more than math and science. But I don't think it is true, so then it's like, well, how do we do this? You could probably do it 4 times in a month and get 79%, 46%, 85% on that day. And so how do we, I guess I'm just wondering how much time we put in this.
That's where I'm at, is like, I'm all about solving problems, but solving problems are problems. And so is there a way as a district for us to have that teacher, whomever, have a conversation with every student and really, because it might be 99% feel perfectly safe at your school, and that's awesome. And to me, that's not an issue we need to focus on. So it's like, I'm just trying to figure out a more efficient way for, you got enough, balls in the air to focus your attention on what actually matters, because I just don't trust it.
Right, no. I think this is one indicator that gave us some good data from last year, and I feel like the more we can just dive deeper and figure out the why. And this year, our plans are to intentionally talk with our staff members prior to the facilitation of this survey to really have that conversation with our students around some of those specifics that could help with the interpretation. But then if we do get those results again, we've got to dive in and see why was it answered this way, and then move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
All right, my name is Christy Ellis, and I'm the principal at Indianola Middle School. And kind of like Brooke, we use basically kind of the same areas of our sources of data. We use the SAMI, which is that group we get together. Basically, we get together in February, we get together for 2 days, and that's where we decide what our building goals and actions are going to be for the next year. We use Iowa State Assessment, we use Fast Track, we look at office referrals. We do the conditions for learning, look at that data, as well as some other reports like the school profile report and things like that as well. So our first goal was to get off the target list, and that was accomplished this year, so we're like, yay. But some of the things that we did is to get off the target list, we had to really focus on our tier 2 and our tier 3. And we had use of Adaptive Scheduler, which Adaptive Scheduler is basically where we can take the kids that are rostered to us and we can assign them to other locations so they can get reteaching or intervention help. So we started utilizing that in our WIN classes as well as our guided study classes. We started focusing on our WIN too. It's like a WIN is a time during our day where kids receive intervention. So we started focusing on the reading intervention as well as math intervention during that time and what do we do during that time. We also do reading 2 times a week for kids that have passed the intervention and math, so they use a program called ALEX. Another thing that we started looking at is really focusing on the academic vocabulary that we use within the classroom. A lot of times we try to make the questions a little bit easier. So example is, when you want to find the sum, we'll say, well, sum, we just want to add instead of using the word sum. So we're really working on the academic vocabulary that is used on the state assessments and the FAST test and things like that. So they're getting that same level of vocabulary as what is being used on the test. And I think we all know in the teaching profession, a lot of times we want to help them out a lot, we want to make them succeed, and so we'd actually do more explaining that we really need to, so we work really hard on, that's what one of our things we're working on right now is academic vocabulary. And then, like I said, we focused on interventions within those times. Another one of our goals is standard-based learning, and this year we're focusing on working on assessments. So in the previous years, we had taking our standards that we have and we have broken them down to try to figure out exactly what is that standard and what is essential for our classrooms. And now we're taking that standards and we're taking assessments and making sure assessments are meeting that standard. And what we're finding out is if you look at the verbs and the adjectives within the standard, they tell you what level and the rigor it should be. And we start really diving into it. Sometimes we were maybe a little bit harder and sometimes we weren't even meeting the rigor of that assessment. So that is what we're really working on this year is our assessments, and then also what do we do with the data that we get. And I think one of the cool things that we did is we took the math team to a PLC conference. That was one of our actions, and when they went over there, they really learned what common formative assessments are and how to utilize that data that comes from it. And a lot of times we want to think about, okay, what do we do with the kids over here that didn't pass? But what was exciting about this is now we're worried about the kids, okay, what do I do in my classroom with the kids that did pass the test? And actually providing enrichment along while the other kids are receiving some more needed help that came from the test. The coaches and we have attended a standard-based conference where we kind of drives a lot of the things that we do. We're having Tom Schimmer come down, and I left my pile of books over there because I'll just run over here. He is, a couple of the resources that he's going to talk about is one is grading from the inside out, so really kind of talking about the assessments and diving out of that, so that's one of his books that he did. And then also this standards-based learning in action where you really, once again, breaking down those standards and using the data not only to reteach, but also to enrich. So he is coming in January for a PD. You're all more than welcome to come see him. He's a very enticing, matter-of-factual speaker. He's he does it very, very good and has quite a few books out there on grading as well as assessments and standards. Another book that we have focused a lot of our information on is called the Teacher Clarity Playbook. And this, once again, this is what we did a book study with our PLC leads about 2 or 3 years ago. And it basically breaks down the standards and then goes through creating assessments and things like that and diving into instruction. And that will be our plan for next year is to go into instruction and making sure instruction meets the level of the assessments. So that's kind of where we're at with the standards-based learning piece and the classrooms. And that is decided once again with this leadership team getting together at the SAMI time. Our next goal is to improve fluency to 85%, and unfortunately, we're usually about 80 to 85%, if not 90 sometimes we get there. But this last fall, we were nicely surprised that we weren't that high. So we really had to kind of go backwards, and 80% is the threshold where you want to meet. Well, at this point, 8th grade was 86%, 7th grade was 68%, and 6th grade was 75%. So we kind of had to go back a little bit and really start looking at what are we going to do within our classrooms now that our fluency is not 80%, because that becomes a tier 1 concern. So when our group of teachers got together for Data Day, we changed some things that we're doing. We really started emphasizing fluency once again in the classroom. Staff meetings and PD, we used opportunity to go through some strategies once again to build on fluency and reminds teachers of some of the strategies that you can do. We're doing some work during wind time, even with the students that have mastered it, so we don't want those kids going backwards. And I'm a real big person that I just don't want to be proficient. I want to be up here. So I really want to get my kids that aren't proficient and get them up to college level. That's where I want my kids to go when they go to high school, is to have as many kids in college level proficiency versus just being proficient. So we're going to continue with our building Y fluency strategies. As a matter of fact, even PE teachers were so excited to get some training on how they could do it in their classrooms. So, along with fluency, we were also looking at comprehension and getting it to 80%. And the reason we started tackling comprehension was because our fluency was pretty good. It was about the 80%. We were going to continue that, but we kind of had to go backwards a little bit. But we're going to still continue with 80%, and we've had some AEA where they've come in and done some professional development and teaching us routines and strategies, as well as using the academic vocabulary. All right, and the next one was improving our math. Our fast math is not as high as we would like. We'd like it to be 80%. Our 8th grade at this point is at 73%, 7th grade's at 69%, and 6th grade's at 77%. So it's not quite 80%, but we are working, once again, that's why we have the WIN intervention where all students do ALEKS, and the students that are needing extra help, we're pulling those kids in by use of adaptive scheduler or interventions. And then we're really looking at our assessments, making sure our assessments meet the rigor of what these questions are, and making sure our kids are going as high as they need to go for that. And kind of going back, I'm going to go back on fluency. We have had a tremendous growth in our fluency in the last 3 or 4 weeks since the test. And our estimated projected winter percentage and kind of our goal for winter is 8th grade will be at 90%, 7th grade is at 76%, and 6th grade is at 78%. So we're making pretty good progress with our fluency. And then 8th grade math, we're hoping to be at 76%, and 7th grade at 70%, and 6th grade at 78% by winter. And then hopefully by the end of the year, we're at 80% or higher on everything. One other thing that we tried with math that has been very successful is when they went to the PLC conference, we worked as a group, and they decided that having common department plans was more important than the team plans. So we ended up we made math department plans. And what they're able to do within those departments now is when they have a common formative assessment, actually dive that next day into the data. And I really feel like we're going to see quite a bit of growth this year just with the fact that being able to dive into the data right away and utilize, get that reteaching piece. We're also diving into how in the classroom can we help a kid that reteach here and have another group over here doing some other things. So we've been working on that as well as within our math departments. Our next one is we go into our social emotional learning, and that is we use CHAMPS in the responsive classroom. with this goal, we decided we probably need to communicate and reteach some expectations. We also use the conditions of learning survey, and one of the areas that was a little bit low was expectations, so we took that kind of as a quick win, improving our expectations. So we created videos that were done by the kids and a couple teachers, and I guess some staff, because we had Officer Hackett and I and Mr. Mara talk about expectations with kids. And so we will do expectations review quarterly now. We have used information from Jessica Minahanj. This is someone that we had come a couple years ago that gave us strategies to deal with behaviors and things within the classroom. And we've also, 6th grade has always had kind of positive behavior support, rewards programs, but we have actually gone throughout the whole 8th grade now. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, so it's throughout the whole building where we have some type of positive behavior reward system going. The next piece of our discipline and secondary book was going over what the majors and minors are, and we kind of started out with having a conversation with teachers. What kind of behaviors are there? What do you expect to see? What do you do when you have those behaviors? So that was this book right here, and the first COVID year was when we were supposed to have, these people were supposed to come to us. Well, it ended up being virtual. I don't think any big conferences is near as good as virtual as it is when they come in person. Of course, it's like the first, they never even really had opportunity to do virtual, so I think they're better now. But this is the book that we utilize, and this is also what the high school does, so it's a nice transition. This is also CHAMPS, so there are several elementary schools that do CHAMPS as well, and that's part of this program as well. It's just the elementary side. We decided to kind of, when we had our decision, we decided to go with CHAMPS versus Achieve. And then along with the CHAMPS and Responsive Classroom, we also, with our SCBMH, we're doing second step assessments, really kind of making them more valid and putting some validity with that as well. What we're finding out is we don't know if second step is our social emotional learning. That's where we get our social emotional learning research-based assessments and stuff that are within there. And they have different conversations like bullying and all those kind of things. But we're finding out there was probably not a lot of validity with it. Some teachers really love it, some teachers don't love it so much, and everybody teaches this across the school. So just kind of making it more, stressing the importance of it. We also are building in our MVP program, and we're going to try to get a couple more teachers trained this year. The kids really love the MVP process. It's kind of a fun thing, but they go into different scenarios, and then they kind of have a discussion about those scenarios. We also do digital citizenship in all grades this year, and last year we did not get one grade level, but we changed things around this year so that all grade levels would get it. And so that's kind of what we've been working with our social emotional learning. And that kind of is pretty much it for that. And we use the conditions of learning survey data as well. And a couple of the areas that we really need to show growth in is in student and teacher relationships, which is funny because we all think the kids love us. But
Kind of like to think our kids do.
But I guess they know. And like, unfortunately, the conditions of learning a survey has quite a bit of impact on what your score is for your learning profile. And so we want to show a lot of growth with that, but like you guys say, you have like that one question differently, and if they mark it negative one time, it kind of hits you negative. We do use another source there, and it's the Iowa Youth Survey, which is kind of interesting because it has a lot of similar questions, and we score very high on it. But the Conditions of Learning Survey kind of gets us in about 2 or 3 areas. So once again, I thank you guys for showing interest in what's going on in the building, because we have been doing a lot of great work, and we have a lot of great support here at the central office, and I just love my staff. So, just thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
Any questions for Christie?
I had a question. So you mentioned in the winter you're hoping to achieve certain benchmarks. Is there a formal assessment that you have at the end of, in the winter time, or what does that look like?
Yes, so we test 3 times a year, so we have a fall, winter, and a spring. So hopefully we make a little bit of progress in the winter. And we've had quite a few kids. If you get put in interventions, we progress monitor fluency every week, and with 3 positive fluencies, then you can get out. And we've had a lot of kids that, especially in 7th and 8th grade, that have gotten out.
What, oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna follow up on that comment. Do we track how many people go back in? Like after they get the 3, and then like a new concept is taught in math, do we know how many kind of graduate and then are put back in when a new concept is introduced and then graduate and?
So FAST is really, it kind of tells you where you're at that point. So it really doesn't have like a new concept that you're teaching. It does get harder as the year goes on. Yes, we'll have students that go back, and then we'll focus on what their skill deficits are, and then once they progress monitor out, they get it. We don't like to see that, but is a natural thing for that to happen. We want to see kids stay out of it. That's why when they get out, they still do reading and they still do ALEKS. And we do have some special special WIN classes that are out there. But most of them are tied to either problem solving, STEM, reading and things like that, to try to make sure that those skills are stayed up to date.
Are those 3, is that an education? That's not an Indianola policy, that's more Iowa State of Education that has those 3 ways to progress out.
The 3,
Yeah.
falls, that's just our FAST data. I mean, that's.
No, but I'm saying like, you have a kid that comes in, struggles in math, but gets 70% 3 different times. Is that our guideline about the 3 different things
Yes.
and then they come
Well,
out? Or is that
That comes through the FAST Track program.
Oh.
They have to progress monitoring using their information that they give us.
okay.
You mentioned in some of your percentages that there was like a higher percentage in the 8th grade. There was 69% on a couple of those in the 7th grade, and then the 6th grade was a higher, low 70s, mid 70s. What do you attribute that 7th grade lower percentage? Do you have anything that you have identified that you think is, I know it's just percentages. And
It's very interesting about the levels. Actually, 7th grade benchmark levels higher than 8th grade benchmark. So I think 7th grade has very high expectations for their fluency. So there's a pretty big jump from 6th grade to 7th grade, and then 8th grade it drops.
Okay.
So.
Why? Why would it drop?
I don't know. That's a good question.
But we, like
Personally, go to high school.
personally, we experienced that. Like 6th grade was okay, 7th grade was a very tough year academically, and now 8th grade, I'm like, are you sure you don't have anything to do tonight? Are you sure you don't have anything to do tonight? So we've seen that 7th grade is just a tough year.
I think there is that summer drop. And it depends really fast depends on how well you read that first time. 8th grade, we had a couple kids that were scoring 200 some words per minute last year, and then took the test, got 131, and then they're like put in intervention. They're like, we don't like it here, and I was like, well, get out. Well, they're all of a sudden scoring back up to 200 some again. But it's sometimes I think it's how the kids read at that time. Like I said, 7th and 8th grade, we've had quite a few kids that have gotten out already. 6th grade, I want to say we're pretty tight there, that I think they are at where they're at right now. We're going to have to work with them. But 7th and 8th grade. 7th grade is also a very large class. So.
Thank you.
But they all have kind of their own special characteristics, each class, so.
Any other questions for Christie? Or Brooke?
Thank you.
Thank you both for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. next is a discussion around maybe having a student from the high school as a board representative. And so I know it was something that Ken had mentioned a while back, a few years, I think it was before COVID and stuff. Mac, you wanted to try to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've talked to Rob about this a little bit in the past as well, and I would like to, I guess, explore the idea of inviting, and it doesn't necessarily even have to be formal, but I would like to be able to routinely hear what students from the high school have to say on various topics, and give them the opportunity to feel like they have a bigger purpose in how the school district operates, and the feeling that the board is supportive of what they're learning and things like that. And so I guess my initial idea was actually saying we have a representative to the board. The more and more that I thought about it, and conversations that Rob and I've had, I think it would be valuable for us to maybe not have a formal position, but invite the student council to maybe represent someone each month, or have administration try to find someone, each month at our meeting that would like to come and just have some open dialogue with us and give us kind of a rundown, real quick, couple minutes on things that are going on in the high school that maybe we wouldn't otherwise hear about.
And Ted you had some experience with that in the past, you said.
Yeah, I had a student representative in my previous district, and they were gonna be on it for a year. After 3 months, they said, I don't want to do this anymore. Just
That was
because
something more formal.
Yeah, that was a formal student rep that applied, and it was a situation that, they come in, a lot of it, they would just share like the good news and things like that, but again, they didn't really want to sit through all the meetings and all of the other pieces, so, as far as inviting somebody to come in to share some information about the high school, I think that's a great idea. And again, it doesn't have to be the same person every time.
I don't know if the same person would want to do it, give that time up every month. I mean, but I think it's a good idea. I think it'd be great. But
I think it should be the same person every time.
It shouldn't?
It shouldn't be.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of kids out there that would love the opportunity to come in and sit at, and learn what school boards do, learn what volunteering is, and maybe create a schedule of somebody that's in the ag that comes in one time, look at all our different areas over at the high school, and, and have 12 areas that we want to learn.
Somebody from the tech,
Right,
invite someone from
Well,
just a different area every month.
Once a month, we look at the different areas and grab from different, even if it's a junior or sophomore, but somebody from the art department, and someone from music, and all the different ones.
And I don't necessarily know if that's something we want to put on your plate, or if we want, board members to assist with that process and kind of make it fun for the kids and educational for the kids at the same time. So I just wanted, I guess, to kind of feel you guys out and see if that's something that you think is beneficial, or if I'm...
I say move forward with it. Maybe see if Jeff can orchestrate
I
it.
can reach out to Jeff and Kelly and get it started, and then after that, if someone would like to invite somebody else, you certainly may.
Or get some names of people that would be willing to come, and then we can kind of look at those names and go from there.
I'll take care of the December one then.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. Next is election of board officers. Ben and I had spoken, and both of us said that we're more than happy to continue to serve. We're more than happy to step aside if anybody else would like to serve in our positions and stuff. So that's totally up to the board what they would like to do and stuff. So Ted did kind of give some counsel there, which I think is wise. Just it might be good to have somebody in place to be able to teach and the ropes and everything, so that if you guys, that's totally fine. But like Ben and I said, like, we're both ready. we're willing to step aside if anybody wants to, we're willing to serve if anybody wants. If
I
nobody
think
wants to.
a big part of this is, there's 4 people on this board that are up for either reelection or done with their term next year. So I think it would benefit us to have somebody in either role that is not either going for reelection or is not coming back.
I'm good with not doing it. I mean, pretty heavy burden.
Can't tell you exactly what I did.
Me neither, now that you say that.
I can't tell you exactly what I did, but I know it
No, no,
felt like a
serious.
big.
And also, if the incoming vice president has the desire then to come in and take over the president role, because Rob's been at it for 3 years, so this will be his 4th. You may have crossed your eyes when you did that. But, so, I don't know, I just think that we need.
I'll make it easy.
One of the 3.
I don't want to be the vice president.
Do we, can I make
You can nominate, you can now nominate.
both positions, or,
Do one at a time, so you do one at a time. So president first.
President first.
well, I would like to see if you can hang in there for 1 more year, Rob, and keep that spot so you can help mentor whoever's in the VP spot if they need to come in and take over next November. So I make the motion that you, Rob Kellers, are nominate.
Are there any other nominations?
Okay.
And you can say, whoever wants to say nominations cease.
Nomination cease.
That means that it's a unanimous ballot. But I need to swear in Rob so he can.
Or do we need to do that right now?
He can do the.
Do I face
The
you?
vice president piece, so. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa? And will you faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge all the duties of the office of President of the School Board in Indianola Community School District, as now or hereafter required by law?
I will.
Thank you, Rob.
Feel free to continue.
So, Tim or Ryan or Mac? Do any, I mean, okay.
All right.
Do you, Mac, have the desire to learn the ropes? Because I think Rob kind of learned them on his own.
Yep.
But,
Robert's a twilight.
The rope's really low.
That should be all right then.
the rope's low.
Rope's low.
Yeah, Mac's been nominated.
That's been nominated.
Any other?
Nominations, yeah.
Nominations. Nominations cease.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Nomination cease.
They did.
Oh, okay.
Balance away.
So both are unanimous ballot, obviously.
Does he have to get sworn in?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mac, stand up, raise your right hand, and put your left hand, no.
Put both hands behind your back.
Okay, Mac, do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa? And will you faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge all the duties of the office of Board Vice President in Indianola Community School District as now or hereafter required by law?
Yes.
And I'll nominate Jonna Clancy to continue on as Board Secretary Treasurer. Any further
Nomination cease.
I don't think that works out.
So, 100%, did we get it?
Yes.
Are we sure? All right, Jonna.
They have to vote first.
Oh, we gotta vote? Out loud?
Probably cease nominating.
That's 100%.
It's
They
100%.
have to have a motion and a second.
Oh, motion made by myself. Oh, I can't make a motion.
I make a motion that John Clancy continue to serve as
Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
Yeah. Aye. All right.
Okay.
All right, Jonna, do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa? And will you faithfully and impartially, to the best of your ability, discharge all the duties of the office of Board Secretary and Treasurer in the Annapolis Community School District as now or hereafter required by law?
I will.
Thank you, Jonna. For always helping our board out, too.
Absolutely. Straight out.
All right, so we did that. Next is appoint board legal counsel, or is this district legal counsel?
It's through the school board is who they represent.
Okay. And the recommendation is to continue with Allers and Cooney Law Firm.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't? Okay. Recommend we appoint Ehlers and Cooney Law Firm as our attorney for the school district.
Motion made by Tim. Seconded by Brian. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, set the time and place for the board meetings. We have that plate, or we know the place, we have the dates. We were talking about a time.
One date first that I'd like to change.
Yeah.
The second Tuesday in July is the 11th. If we could change it to the 18th, it's just better with the 4th of July in there, if you guys don't mind pushing it to the 18th. Other than that, they're all, you're the only one.
We talked about maybe if we have like a student representative, because it's on a Tuesday night, maybe moving them up to 5. Is that possible, or does it need to be 5:30?
It's tough for me, but it's not all about me. So if everybody else thinks that 5 o'clock is a recommended.
5 or 5:30. Donna.
I'm just saying, I don't think we can have a board member 30 minutes late
Yeah.
every
Every
week.
single time.
I don't think that's good practice.
I'm kind of busy, but I think I can make it.
Thoughts, Ben?
I think if it's going to be a problem for one, it's a problem for all, so we should probably stay at 5:30.
Can everybody else make it at 5? It'd be tough.
It would be, right. Okay, I didn't know if you.
I didn't want to be the only guy.
I got you.
Okay, 5:30. We'll keep them at 5:30.
Tuesdays?
Tuesdays at 5:30s. And the only one is July 18th that needs to be changed for 2023. That's the recommendation. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve that as stated? Motion made by Mac,
Second.
seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, to set the official depositors, we're looking at, recommendation is for People's Bank for 35 million, ISJIT for 10 million, and UMB for 10 million.
So what that is, I mean, People's Bank is obviously our main bank, that we have everything there. IceJet is, we have some, like $3 million worth of investment there, but if we ever wanted to increase it, it gives us a buffer. UMB is where all our debt service is, and it's more of a flow in and a flow out. There's nothing there except for when they get it, and then it disperses, but I think it covers us if we need to have.
What's the standard practice for public funds
Being insured in a financial institution? Do we have a special insurance outside of?
The state covered, there's a sinking fund. If a bank would fail, there's a sinking fund. Back in the early 90s, that happened. Or different banks that was happening. So there is some type of a sinking fund. I can get more information on that. I don't have specifics on that, but I can get that more information if you'd like it.
Is it standard practice for a school district of our size to only have one bank?
You know, it's been that way for years. Many districts will do that. Some will spread it out throughout the community. Becomes then more, managerial of the things that have to happen from our office to go from one bank to another. When I came here, we were with Regions and did an RFP, and Peoples won that RFP, and that was in 2017. So we've had them for about 5 years, have been very pleased with them. You know, right now, the way that our bank account's set up is everything is in one account. So we have one bank account for everything.
Do we
So-
ever come close to the 35 million?
Only in April and October. That's when we get our first and second half property taxes. And that's, you know, all funds. So you have your debt service amount, you'd have your general fund amount, and everything is in there. It moves out pretty quickly, you know, and then by the, you know, if you look at like the cash flow statement that I show, it shows what we are at the end of the month. So it doesn't show activity within the month in that little graph that we show monthly. So,
Last question, and then I'll leave this one alone. Do we see any sort of investment return on that account?
yes, they're not so great. It's better now than it has been. It was pretty poor a couple of years ago, and even last year, because obviously the way that the investments were. When we moved from the previous bank to this bank, we saw a great increase in our. We have a set amount that's our service charge every month of $100 a month, and then the interest we receive, you know, can be up to $30,000 a month. So it's when we first started, it was less last year, but that helps us with staffing, you know.
Just need a motion. Move forward.
Recommend we set the following depositories as depository limits for People's Bank, 35 million, ISJIT at 10 million, and UMB at 10 million.
Motion made by Tim,
Second.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Set the official newspaper as the Indianola Record Herald, which is now local ownership again. Makes that easier.
Motion that we use the official newspaper for publications, which is Indianola Record Herald.
Motion made by Sue, seconded by Ryan. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Board committee assignments. All right,
Okay, this is shuffle time.
I'm gonna shuffle 2 to 3.
Shuffle.
You're good? Okay, Tim's good.
And are times still okay with everybody?
Yes, for me.
Okay for you?
Yes. 7 a.m.s are
The
good.
7 a.m.s work well. 4:30s sometimes get tough, you know, when people are in, so.
Does anybody want to give up facilities? I would like to go to facilities and just learn that a little better, if anybody wants to give it up.
I would like to stay on it, and I think the reason is because we're in the middle of all that, so I think that would be the one. I would like to stay on facilities.
I would like to stay on finance.
I'll stay on finance too.
Curriculum and
We have to shift.
policy.
Do you want to swap me facilities for technology, so you get a chance to be on facilities? Okay,
That's fine.
I'll go to technology.
Tim, you're gonna switch?
Yeah, I'll go to technology vice facilities, but I'll stay on finance.
That's not a very good idea. If we're in the middle of some of the stuff we talked about on Thursday, why would we take him off facilities? So I will go off facilities.
Okay.
And you wanted to be on finance, right?
I have no problem learning things. I'll just-
So Rob,
So Jana, maybe just go through each one of them and make sure.
curriculum. Mac and Ryan. Ryan said yes. Mac?
I can go back to curriculum. I was already on it. No, report.
Are you on HR, Sue?
And Mac as well? Yes.
Let's see what plays out here.
Okay. Okay, facilities, I've got Ben, Tim, and Rob, right?
Sue, and only if you want to. That's
No,
what
it's
I was
okay.
just asking if
We
anybody
can't
wants
lose him
to.
off that. facilities
I'm
with.
really not all that key.
No, you are.
Finance stays the same. Rob, Mac, and Tia.
Yeah. No,
Human Resources.
it's nice. It's nice.
I'll stay on human resources.
I'll say.
And I can go curriculum or I can stay on policy, it doesn't, I'm fine, whatever.
Ben, are you?
I'll stay unless somebody else wants it.
Move out? The other?
Try having that I can keep the same days.
Policy? Donna? It's exciting, right? Great. And Mac and Ryan? Okay. There's more movement usually in this. This is interesting.
Usually big shit.
And technology. Now, we lost, Rob went off technology, so I have Mac and Sue. Are you guys still good on that?
Right.
It's been a while.
Who else wants, I fell off tech.
You fell off, you went off
I
tech.
mean, policy.
It was just Sue and I really.
Oh, okay.
But if nobody else wants it, then I can go back.
Just no one else wants to hang with Sue.
Okay, so we got Sue, you want technology? Tech?
Me? Oh, I'm already there. I said if no one else wants to hang with me, I got
So
you.
Donna, if you want to go to curriculum, I'll go back on tech with Sue.
So take me off curriculum.
No.
Yeah.
So-
Ryan and Donna want to go to curriculum,
So I'm-
me and you can go to tech.
So does that put me on 2 committees or
Yeah.
3?
Got you.
How many are you on?
Curriculum, human resources, and technology, then, if you don't go off one.
That's fine.
You just make it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, so what are you?
Well, I moved over to curriculum when I went off facilities.
So you want to stay on curriculum? Is that what you're saying?
Whatever, I don't care. It's gonna be more for me to get my new schedule down than anything.
So who's on curriculum with you, Ryan?
Curriculum, I have Mac, Ryan, and Sue.
Do you want, you said you.
I can either stay on it and have 3, or I can drop off curriculum and just be on finance. Oh, if I'm going to be on finance policy and then one of the other 2, I'd prefer not to have 4.
Well, I'll do curriculum, then I won't do policy.
Okay, just a second. Donna. And policy. Okay.
I'm fine with 3.
So Matt, okay, so I got you at policy, curriculum,
No, policy
curriculum, and finance.
and finance.
Now, wait a minute.
He's on policy.
You're not gonna do curriculum at all?
Yeah. he's
No,
not doing
I'm gonna do curriculum.
Okay. Okay, Donna and Sue on curriculum. I've got, and Ryan. Oh, yes, and Ryan, yes. Donna, Sue, and Ryan.
No, Sue's not going
Yeah.
to curriculum? Oh, okay.
Okay, ready?
Passive blank sheet around.
You got
No,
it,
I'm gonna be able to read it. Yeah.
Wait, let's do it one more time.
Okay,
I'm
curriculum, I got Donna, Ryan, and Sue. Facilities, I got Ben, Tim, and Rob. Finance, I have Rob, Mac, and Tim.
Yep.
Human Resources, I have Donna, Ben, and Sue. Policy, I have Mac and Ryan, just 2, okay. Technology, I have Sue. And Mac, okay. So we had 3 last time, does anybody else want that 3rd spot on technology? Okay, 2, okay. Okay, thank you.
Would you send out an updated list
Sheet.
and the dates?
Okay, motion.
Yeah, make a
Does that
motion.
take effect now, or are we still meeting
This one-
Thursday with the current?
So Thursday is curriculum.
I would say it takes effect now.
I think it takes effect now, yeah. So Max off, Donna's on Thursday. Make sure you're there. Be
Call
there.
us if we forget to come.
All right, make a motion, we approve the annual board committee assignments as amended by Jonna.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Mac. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the board, let's see here, appointment of the Warren County Conference Board members. Sue, do you want to continue to serve on that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Make a
So-
motion to appoint Sue.
Okay, motion made by Mac to appoint Sue,
I'll second it.
seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Next is the enrollment history.
It's more just informational, but you need to see, you know, it shows kind of where we've been. We talked about it a little bit at the work session, but I thought we'd memorialize it here, because we typically do it at a regular meeting. So you can see everything, all the red is our negatives, and we do 2 in a row. So next year should be a green year, not a red year.
2%.
Yeah, that would be good. So, just more, it's informational.
Okay. Next is the athletic eligibility for open enrollment out students. This is 2 options exist. One, allow immediate eligibility for varsity level athletic competition, or require the 90-day eligibility period to stand when kids are leaving Indianola going to a different district.
My question is, I guess, I think I have an understanding. I suppose that the 90-day waiting period would be so that we don't have a good athlete leave our district to go to a competing school. I mean, is that the only reason why we would say no?
Well, I mean, thing is, theoretically, if you waive it all, they could go wrestle at Southeast Polk and come back here run track, and they could go, I mean, those kids could go wherever there was a good, you know, a good program, which is, I mean, you're opening the door for that.
How does that affect our funding? Do we know yet?
Funding, if they are here at October 1st count, right now, that's what we believe it will be. There is a state board meeting on next week, I think it's the 15th or 16th. 15th, okay. That they'll discuss that, and hopefully we'll have more guidance. Right now, we're operating with the October 1st. They're here and we get that, but that could change in this.
Do we have a specific request today?
Yeah. We have a situation where we have a student that open enrolled in Martinsdale St. Mary's. They were on the JV volleyball team, so it didn't impact them in the fall. This individual would like to wrestle for their varsity program this winter.
So if we wanted to approve that specific student's waiver and table an overall policy until after we get guidance on the funding, can we do that?
You can absolutely do that, yep.
Does Martinsdale have the girls the same program?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, that's what their AD,
Because I don't mind not having the waiver if the district they're coming from doesn't have the program, swimming, wrestling, whatever. I think that not have the waiver for that is fine.
and I can tell you most of the districts that are around us, I don't want to speak for all of them, they're just saying if the student wants to go, that's fine. It could, I mean, I shouldn't say this, but, you know, I can't anticipate we're gonna have 20 kids leave because of open enrollment to do a sport somewhere else. And if we do, then we need to look internally why our students are leaving, if they don't wanna be a part here. That would be more of an internal look if we have kids that wanna leave because of that. But if we absolutely can figure out until that funding piece comes, what we wanna do with it, we can just do this one tonight and then we can revisit it the December meeting.
Can we do the inverse? Are we able to, I mean, if we felt strongly about maintaining the 90-day, can we approve that and then have an exception policy where we are able to, or is that not the recommended?
I think what I would recommend is if you're gonna do it, it's either all yes or all no, because you don't wanna get into individual situations, because let's just say that, Mac's gonna go someplace and he's a great athlete, so no, we're gonna make you sit, but Ted, you're not going to, play, so we're gonna let you go, and it wouldn't be fair. I mean, I think it would put the board at a real disadvantage trying to pick and choose who's gonna do what, where, in what school district.
So this is for, the current one that we're looking at right now is for a student that has
Just
left
a-
Indianola School all the way, or just
Yep,
going
they've
over?
been gone since the beginning of the school year.
Not the one that was on tonight.
Yeah, that individual's been gone all year.
Okay.
So we're not, regardless, we're not getting paid from a financial perspective on that student at all.
No, they've opened enrolled since the beginning of the school year.
My concern would be in Donna's situation where they were bouncing around. I don't want kids to bounce around and then have us lose out on finances. If there's no threat to the financial aspect, then I'm not sure that I care about the 90-day personally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care about it that much either. I just know some kids that have left.
Well, and I think it comes back to why though, right? So like there was 4 people that, I did not go to the same high schools as my older sister or my younger brother or younger sister. I went to a different high school than them because I did not want to go to a massive school. And so maybe the reason for not enrolling in Indianola is just their kid functions better at a smaller school.
So they could bounce like Indianola to Martinsville to Carlisle and back in 1 year?
A
For different
student
For
could.
different programs.
Theoretically, they could. I'm just saying, theoretically.
And could they still be a student here and go to another school district to place?
No, they cannot be a student here.
Okay, they have to go to school there, okay.
And at some point, I don't know whether this is just a rumor mill or not, but I've heard that the state's gonna do away with the 90 days anyway at some point.
Okay.
Yes, my stance is, if that's what this family or this person feels is best for them, then I don't know that we should stand in the way. And I agree with Ted, if this becomes a problem, it isn't a 90-day problem, it's an us problem.
Right.
And we need to figure that out. And I just don't see it being a giant issue.
We can always change it if
Yep.
it doesn't turn out well. So, yeah, I can go either way on this one.
Well, if we can come back and change it, then what's the group think about just approving it?
Eliminating the other.
Well, this one's especially unique. They don't have the program here for this girl to compete.
Ted, will this be put into a policy somewhere, or is it just because it's state law, the board can choose one way or the other?
Yeah, it's just that you can choose.
No policy.
No, there's no policy right now.
She just wants a smaller school.
Two. Okay, so we just need to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to immediately allow eligibility varsity level athletic competitions.
Motion made by Mac, seconded by Sue. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the board curriculum committee meeting report.
Okay, it's kind of abbreviated. Education at 7:45 that one. So,
Thank you.
first thing you can see there were 7, I think, 7 teachers that were reimbursed for a course in computer science to get an endorsement in computer science, which kind of furthers their experience for computers, K-12 computer science plan. So there were 7 different teachers within the district participated in that opportunity. This pyramid diagram you see here is a nice, and I would do a much better job than me explaining how this kind of, Brooke referenced this a couple of times in her speech to us on the SEBMH, and specifically regard, this is specifically in regards to SEBMH. It's a construct from, I don't know exactly where, it's not from any NOAA, but it's been adopted by AEA, our specific AEA, department AEA, as kind of a multi-tier, basically kind of, as you fall from the base, and very broadly from the base to specific intent at the top. The multi-tiered systems of support, this is specifically for SEP, but also can be used for math or science reading. So that's hard to read, but, and again, if you want a great description, and then I can do that much better than myself, but it really helps me understand the multi-tiered system support, specifically for the social paradigm. So we're going to do that, mostly what we're doing then. Lastly, does anybody want to do a good description on that?
You're hearing many presentations that reference MTSS.
Yeah.
So just the multi-tiers, just wanted to give you a visual of how that increases in supports. And I know you had a board interest or goal in the area of mental health and social emotional learning. And so we talked about the specifics and where that fits within this type of diagram.
This is great because it shows where the foundation is fractured in some of our developmental aspects that we're trying to, developmental problems that we're trying to solve, or behavior problems that we're trying to solve. I like this. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Good job.
So you as a board, if you have specific areas that you feel like that's the area that you're wanting to see improvements in, so that we're not so broad when we say social emotional learning or mental health, if you have a certain picture as to what you're envisioning us to get better at, then we're talking about the same piece within it.
It's on vision cards.
Or maybe, remember the one you had passed out for SIAC? That's this one.
Oh, no, I know it is, but you actually gave out the plate mat size one, and maybe at the next board meeting, because the color copied one is really one where you can dive in and see the whole thing, so maybe if someone could print one of those off, they might really enjoy.
And lastly, just, I don't think the videos actually work. We were going to some videos on the science pilot, saw some pictures, just kids, kind of like with Mac updated on just actual hands-on project learning on the science pilot in Emerson. And we are maybe programmed for an update from her here, maybe next month or so.
Yeah, so next month Maddie Camp will be present, probably with maybe some students. We're finishing out the surveys of parents, the teachers, her survey, and we'll be presenting some comparison to baseline data from last spring, and just give you an update on that program, hopefully to then present before you to have a decision as to where you think we can take that program for next year, simply because there's a lot of planning that would be involved if that's the direction that the district wants to take.
Just to, I guess, continue my earlier comments, my daughter Gita is very artsy. For those of you that know her, she's very talented at art. That's like her thing, is to color and draw, and that is, she told us yesterday, when we were talking about me being there yesterday, she said, I like this science class more than art class. And that is huge. So just reiterating my desire to continue this.
Thank you, guys. Next is a School Improvement Advisory Committee meeting report, also known as SIAC.
So the very first paragraph there was outlining, essentially we had some presentations from the high school and Emerson Elementary with some of the same information that you're being presented from tonight from Christy Ellis and Brooke Mendoza regarding their building goals. I presented the MTSS structure, that pyramid, to them also, just trying to build their understanding of that framework, because as they start to be involved in making recommendations to the board, again, it's that balance between building their understanding and then also getting input and advice. And then Ted talked to them about the visioning process and TeamWorks International. And some members already have some interest in maybe participating in that side of the visioning process. So we're just trying to work together on how can we have SIAC be a part in some way, and as that group moves forward this year.
Cool. Thanks, Annette.
Very good.
Next is the Board Technology Committee meeting report. And it was Sue and myself and Ray and Ted. And the four of us had a lot of fun. It's actually a bad time to go off of technology because it was really fun actually. So the
More of you should
two,
have signed up.
yeah, the two ladies, I'm trying to think here.
Celeste and Ally.
Yes, Celeste and Ally came over and presented to us just in regards to how they, as a technology integration role, how they work with the actual staff members at each of the buildings and how they get involved. And it was really cool what they're doing, and they kind of showed us like where we're at in the different schools, like if they're feeling secure in that, or if they're feeling like, oh, I'm not ready for this. But they showed us that whole kind of process and how they're doing it, and just everything they've done from kind of being thrown in crazy in COVID year, because we just did that, you know, immediately, having to go online with everything, to now having two of them and actually being able to feel like they're like actually moving forward and teaching and helping these staff members be able to use technology for their betterment. They showed us a calendar, and the green is one of them and the orange is the other one, and just how filled that is with different classrooms or taking care of different things. We got to play a game at the end. This programming game with, what were they? They were bees, right?
Bees.
Like traveling bee bot. Yeah. And
You had to mastermind.
yeah, we had to.
I just had to press a button. I handled it all right.
Coding.
And then,
No, it was cool.
And then somebody coded.
Yeah.
And then so it's just showing the kids at a young age. It was really cool. I was impressed. I would actually like to play that game.
Well, it was a affirmation that you can put technology into the reading curriculum, into the math curriculum, which was one of my big fears
Right.
when we got Chromebooks for all our youngs all the way to 5th grade, is I don't want them on these things all the time, but the ability to be able to integrate it into teamwork and reading and following instructions and everything
Yeah.
else, so.
Thanks for purchasing those for them. I
Yeah,
heard
that
you-
was,
you-
it was a grant. So.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, not
Yeah, I did spend the-
and now honing up the money. That's
But I would if I had.
There they are, yeah.
But also just a big testament of when we approved that position to get someone else in there to help, it really has made a difference in our teachers' ability to really learn
Yeah.
how to use these programs that can better our students' learning. And so making that a priority to make sure our technology team is where it needs to be to better serve.
And they kind of have a plan now, like the two of them, like where do we want to go? Where do we want these teachers to be? And I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, because they did say that.
They're working hard.
They did say they normally just did one PD a year, and that was really hard because they would forget, or a lot of them would leave that PD in a couple months and then just never go back. But now they do it in the fall, and then again in like March and April. And so people are just retaining it better, and they're just getting a better outcome of the teachers integrating things into their curriculum, so.
That was pretty much it. You sure anybody wants to reshuffle back to technology?
I can do it by myself too. That was cool. They did a good job.
Good.
Still program debug and. All right. Next is the recommendation for approval of documents presented in two separate motions. Okay, here we go. Recommendation of the board approval of Allers Disclosure Council engagement agreement and the resolution directing the advertisement for sale, approving electronic bidding procedures, and approving official statement.
So
This is for our bonds.
And 2, right.
Doing a $10 million bond this year because it makes sense to do that with the way.
It's because we can do $10 million, that is a bank qualified, if the people from the finance committee would remember him saying that. It's a lesser percentage, and we can use it, and we have to use it up within 3 years. And so we're looking at December of 2025 that we have to use it up for. I believe we can do that.
That's Laura's job to get that done.
Because we have
Already,
more
right?
coming down the pike, right? So this will get us going on that, and we will close, like we talked about previously, we'll close December 28th. So.
So you need a recommendation?
Yeah.
For the first one?
Can we do 10 million, or does it have to be $5 less?
No, we can do up to 10 million, so, yeah.
So I recommend we approve the board, the Ayler's Disclosure Council Engagement Agreement.
Motion made by Tim. Seconded by Mac. All those, any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Number 2.
I recommend we approve the resolution directing the advertisement for sale, approving electronic bidding procedures, and approving the official statement.
Motion made by Tim.
Second.
Seconded by Matt. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next are the monthly financials.
More exciting than Ray's technology.
Oh, now, come on.
You could try.
Well, I'll take a back seat because August, again, isn't that exciting. It's, we're just still getting going in the school year. So we haven't got our new staff in place yet, so you can kind of see where we stand consistently from last year to this year in the balance sheet. I won't take much time since we're kind of moving along, as well as the budget to actual expenditures. And then the cash that, we were talking about, that this is general fund only, but, then we have management, debt service, those are your big dollars, activity in the other pieces, so that when you look at the graph, when you go down, right, to the graph, you can see that this is general fund only, so, general fund is 14 million at the end of the year, 13 and change. So, then we've got, 3 million in management, and you can kind of see where our numbers come from. End of the year is not our highest, but before April is always about the highest, so.
And just on the page above that, should that say in the notes section, August 2022 represents 16.6?
Yes, that should say August.
Just amend for the.
It's 16%, yep. Thank you, I'll change that. Any questions?
Just a motion to approve the monthly financials.
I move to approve monthly financials.
Motion made by Donna.
Second.
Seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the 2023-2024 budget development.
We've talked about this before. Again, informational. Is our first piece of enrollment or of budget development is our enrollment. So you can see the top part, it says actual enrollment, kind of in the middle, it has a 7 after that. That's because in the old 1998, the old way that we used to do the enrollment, that was line 7. So I don't know why they keep doing that, but I guess it helps me because I remember those numbers. But you can see that we're down to 37.96. And then it's also interesting to see where our grade level counts are. That's more informational to you. But as you look at that, you can see, right now we have a large middle school class.
Large 9th grade class too.
And a large 9th grade class. So, and again, we graduated 300 and we brought in 221.
And the numbers really fall off.
Yeah. So that's where we just need to kind of keep that in. That's what we look at.
Fourth grade.
Right, 4th grade.
4th, 7th, and 8th.
Yep.
Are those the same grades we have waiting listed? Like, can we?
There's a waiting list. I'm not sure. Those would be the ones that would logically be 4th as well.
Well, that 7th grade, wasn't that the year purple and gold?
Yeah.
So a lot of, kind of caused that spike.
that's why the next year's like way low. I remember watching that grade go up through.
So again, this is information, this is step one, okay? And at Friday at about 5 o'clock, I got an email from the Department of Ed, said, hey, we've got the budget, the maximum modified supplemental amounts ready to go. So I stopped production on the board packet and put this in there so that we could get it in because it's due by December 1st. So the next piece is we have two pieces that would be allowable growth for us, gives us budget, doesn't give us cash, gives us budget to be able to spend going forward. So we have 2 LEP, which is limited English proficient. So that means that we get, originally we get 5 years of LEP, limited English proficient, budgetary number, 20.22 per student. So it's not a whole student, but we get assistance for that to get help for those students. If they go beyond that, then there's another, then there's a more intensive assistance needed. That's what this number is. It's identified through our PowerSchool system when they upload. They can identify which ones need more help. Open enrollment out students not in the fall of 2021 count. So if we had people in 2021 that were here, let's see, how do I want to say that? Let me say it backwards. Am I saying it backwards? They weren't in 2021, but they're here in 2022, okay, open enrollment. So we lose out because the counts for this year, from last year, are for what we're getting this year. So they give us allowable growth to be able to deal with that, and that's a healthy number. But if we'll have to make 2 emotions on that, but if you go to the next page, Ray, you can see the difference from where we were last year to this year. So it's down about $250,000 from what we took in last year there. And if you were to calculate this on a tax basis, it'd be about 26.5 cents on our valuation that we have currently. So I would recommend that you approve those 2 and we'll move forward with that. But I do need those as 2 separate motions as well.
Jonna, so this increases taxes?
No, this is budget figures only,
Budget.
and then if we need, this would be cash reserve. So cash reserve, when we start doing the budget, as we get closer down the road, we would see where we stand. This goes into that pot of excess.
It just allows us to be able to.
No increase on this.
Okay, good. So 2 separate motions again.
Make a motion to approve the LEP instructional beyond 5 years.
Motion made by Mac to approve. Seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And then,
Make a motion to approve the OE out students not in fall 2021 count.
motion made by Mac. Seconded by Ryan. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And then the next is the board's facility committee meeting report.
This might be kind of exciting, right? Yeah.
We went to Knoxville to the city, kind of the city manager's office. We sat down with the city manager. There was a guest from Red Lion Renewables that was there. Kind of got a testimonial from the city of Knoxville about how much, and really it was helpful. She had printed out what their auditing statement had forecasted for savings. I want to say that the city itself had looked at saving about $12,000, almost $13,000 per year. Then after that, we went over to the Knoxville High School. We actually climbed up on the roof. You can see pictures of Bernie and Jonna up there looking at. Those are all solar panels, and some of the concerns we've expressed in this meeting here have been whether or not it would puncture the roof. Those are landscaping blocks that you can see there. So they actually sit them down on bars, and there's like rubber
rubber cushions underneath those bars, and then those landscape blocks sit on there, so there's no puncturing of the membrane on the roof. There was minimal damage, they said, when Duratio came through, and they stated that they were back up and running within a week. Probably Bernie and Jonna and I's peaked interest would be that parking array that's over the parking area, because as we thought about the auxiliary services building and the potential to have buses park under something like that, and there was a significant drain when you have refrigerators going and maybe server stacks, things like that, pulls the electric, and these could prove to potentially offset some of the costs there. Knoxville High School, I think was, what was it, 30,000?
33, I thought he said, yeah.
Over $30,000 in savings. I think it's important to understand, so really what you have is, you have the customer and you have Mid-American, and what happens in this scenario is Red Lion comes in here, puts up the solar array, and says, I can pretty much guarantee you a 10% savings if you buy your energy from me. And so they've got investors that will put money into this because there's federal and state benefits that allow them, those folks that have made a considerable amount of money that need the tax breaks that come with setting something up like this, they are able to get benefits from that allows them to want to put their money into it. What do you have here for the customer? Roughly about a 10% savings on whatever attach it to, whatever your bill is roughly. That's a 20-year contract. It's either an easement or it's a lease for the customer to do. After 5 years, the customer has an opportunity to purchase that whole system array. One of the comments that was made is if this system costs $1 million, they front all the cost for that. They're pretty much guaranteeing a 10% savings. After 5 years, it's got a depreciation cost, and the district could look at purchasing it. So let's say after 5 years, they might offer to sell it for $650,000, just as an example.
Off $1 million, 65% is what they said, didn't they?
Yep, and I imagine it cascades down there on depreciation. Kind of couple of interesting things. So Mid-American did show up at their city council meeting when the city decided to go this route, and they also showed up at the school board meeting. Because they, obviously, when somebody slides in and offers power or electric at a reduced price, it minimizes this, obviously, what they're looking. And so I think it's important to think about that. I mean, we met with IMU earlier in the year, and it was very interesting to watch and see. I think as Bernie and Jonna and I walked through, I think we kept reverting to, if we were going to try anything like this, the auxiliary services building would be the place to try something like that. They've never done a brand new construction. They've always had an existing facility. This company has. But they said they can project power requirements off of the facility design and kind of off of the building plans. They're able to capture some of that data. So they would be able to come in and do an assessment and decide what it would take, how many solar panels it would take to be able to do something like that. Just, for the sake of dialogue, one of the concerns that Bernie had expressed earlier on was, not all of his staff is real knowledgeable on what it takes to take care of a system like this. And so with that extended agreement of 20 years, what comes with that is, somebody that is knowledgeable. I mean, the guy who is basically in charge of this particular company has 13 years of solar experience before he even started the company. And so that provides a little bit of a, it appeases Bernie's facilities standpoint, obviously. But it would be interesting to see how much you learned in doing a particular project like that, or entertaining the idea of what that might look like, and then seeing if we could do it ourselves, maybe on a different location.
Because there's no I mean, I kept asking, because the thing that was interesting is the Red Lion person went from the city to the school with us, because he was involved in both of those. But the questions that we might have asked, we didn't really ask, because he was able to drive the conversation. He knew, right? But I kept saying, what does a district cost? And they said, I saved 10% on my electricity. There was nothing different. I mean, there was no outlay. The question I don't know, the city didn't really say that the array that they have over their parking, because Ron had, pie in the sky several years ago had said it'd sure be nice to have solar down the middle aisle, and then you'd have the buses plug in. They wouldn't have to brush snow off their windshields. I mean, there's some benefit there, but that's part of it. But you're going to use it too, that power, and then so those were the questions that I had that we weren't really able to ask. I did reach out to Norwalk. Norwalk has this company is out of Norwalk, and it's on a church. They usually focus on city and school and county, because it's revenue that's going to always be there. Where a company, they won't go with a private company very often, because 20 years is a long time.
I think maybe there's 3 other things that are worth mentioning. The first one is, so far, none of the companies have elected to purchase the system. So they've just continued on after that 5 years to let the company run it. The second thing was, Knoxville did have basically the same as this building right here, where they were considering selling. Well, what that looks like is if you had, and that's why I say an older facility, they decided to do that, and then now they're looking at potentially selling that facility. Well, that has a minimum of a 5-year agreement, even before they purchase it, but a 20-year lock on that. So you have to sign that. That has to be assigned over. Like, the person that purchases that property has to be willing to say, oh yes, I agree to have my energy purchased from this customer. Well, that purchase price was based on a certain demand. So if you had an organization that purchased that building that was going to have less of a demand, that might be a hard sell. Right. Otherwise, the school district is on the hook to continue to pay that energy bill. And so those were a couple of considerations that I thought were important.
And I think that we have looked at the other piece of what it looks like to buy outright. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was step 1, or actually probably step 2 or 1A, whatever I call it, because we've talked with the city before. The city also has some solar, interest as well. And if you got your IMU bill, there was a flyer in the last IMU bill that talked about the power, or solar power. So it's further study, I think, but.
I suppose we would be in charge of directing the facility that would sit on?
It depends. If you went with this company, they front all the cost. They do it all, but they own it, and it's an easement or a lease. Probably in our case would be an easement on the property. And so their people have the right to go and work on and maintain that portion which is on our land, is the way that works.
During the contract period?
All of it. If it gets damaged, if a certain panel is not, you just call out and they service it. So, I mean, you can understand why somebody would look at it and say, so you're telling me I have the potential, and it's not likely that energy prices would go down.
Right.
So the idea of saying, so you're telling me I can save 10% and I don't have to put any money down.
Right.
You can see why that would be luring and attractive in some situations.
Of our utility bill, I mean, it was $120,000 this month for the district. How much of that was electric?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I can find that out. We can look at what the, I mean, I think I did that grid that showed electricity, you know, and natural gas. I did that a couple months ago. That would be year end, I think, is what I did, or close to year end. That would give you an annual amount of what that is. So, because we were guessing, what, 60,000 we think we'd save? You know, as an estimate.
Right.
Which would be close to a teacher. And that is general fund expenditures. So.
All right, thanks, Tim. Construction updates.
Sure.
They're just hoping that the parking area at the new
Auxiliary building is done by March.
Yeah, that's pretty much, yeah. You know, and my question now, that if we go to one meeting a month, I don't know that we need this. This is something that's been gone on for many, many years. But I don't know if we have you're gonna have, probably every group will have a meeting in 1 month. So I don't know that we need this. So are you guys okay if we get, I don't know,
This part right here?
that report? That
The facilities project update, you mean?
Yeah, because you'd have a facilities meeting every month.
Right,
so-
right. So what, it's kind of redundant.
That's what, yes. So, okay, good. Okay, this is what Laura came for.
I know.
Wait all that time?
You were gonna stay for the whole meeting anyway, right?
Yeah.
I think she stayed after she's presented every meeting. Oh, wait, maybe that's not
Yeah.
true.
Johnny, you should have stayed at the beginning, so I'll take this one.
Yeah, this is my fault. We were working on that, and I set it aside, and I didn't, and I apologize, so. But we have the contract, and you've seen the contract, it's been vetted by the attorneys. Minor changes were made because we've had a different contract with them. So this gets us for phase 1 and phase 2 for our project.
This is what we asked for because we didn't want them combined in one,
Right,
correct?
right.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So it was pretty easy for the lawyers to move
Yep.
through that, so. Any questions, specifically for Laura, because she came? Somebody ask a question, please.
Nobody has a
Motion.
question.
You're good.
I didn't see anything when I read through it, so I don't.
Yeah,
Just need a motion.
We just need a
we
motion,
do,
right?
yep, that's it.
Recommend approval of the contract, architectural services for the high school projects, phase 1 and 2.
Okay, motion made by Tim,
Second.
second by Sue. Any further discussion by the board?
On the timeline, there was only one question I had. So for phase 1 and phase 2, it says October 2022. Both phase 1 and phase 2, the date says October 2022. And I just wanted to make sure that that was accurate for plan design.
For pre-design,
Yeah.
yeah, we started, we have meetings tomorrow, so.
Okay, all right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Next is the policy. Thanks, Laura.
Sorry.
Hi, Laura.
Okay. I learned a lot about our school district.
Right. She'll be served.
Right.
Okay, sorry, I cannot get my agenda to go anymore, so. Next is the board policy committee meeting report. There's the policies.
You want me to take it? Okay, we went through quite a few different policies. The majority of these policies that we went through just had a few changes that the attorneys recommended, adding designee behind superintendent or things like that. There was a few changes and an additional paragraph on the board policy, the responsibilities of the board of directors. Student government did not have any changes. Student organizations added the designee in a few different spots.
student fundraising, we already approved these once already, correct?
Yes.
So I don't need to go
Yeah,
through
I
them.
need to go through.
Nothing's
Yeah,
changed.
see, these would be second reading of this piece,
Yep.
and we'd have first reading of.
Some of the other ones.
So, sorry, Mac.
Second
So
reading.
this would be second reading of all this.
Yep.
I'll leave it at that then.
So, approving the second reading.
Yeah, page 157 has a spelling thing, it needs to be in, page 157 on the bottom, sorry, on that, so.
It should say in instead of is.
D, special meetings, removal of materials in unusual circumstances, that's the only thing I saw. And then, the other thing that I would say is the policy on the review of instructional and library materials, I thought was very well written. I thought we navigated that very well, so for the folks that came up with the framing of that policy, kudos to you, because I think that's very well written.
All right, we would just need a motion for the second reading.
That's, okay, so that was board policy committee report, right?
Yep.
Okay, now so you have second reading, first reading, and then one that waives, right?
And that was just one reading.
We
Was it
waived-
8:04?
We waived the reading of the,
Narcan one, was that 8:04?
or we waived the first reading of that.
Yeah.
Or no, we waived the second, I don't know.
You waive the second.
We waived the second, so we can just,
802.4. 802.4 is one we're waiving the Narcan with the EpiPen.
okay,
That's just going to be one reading, waive the second one.
okay. So, okay, I'll let you guys do the motion.
I will make a motion to approve the second reading of 200.3, 504.1, 504.2, 504.4, 504.5, 504.5R1, 504.6, 506.2, 506.2R1, 710.E1, 1E1, 710.E2, and 710R1.
Made by Matt.
Sounds together, they have to be separate.
They can, the second reading, the first reading can be separate, and then that waiver needs to be separate.
The third one, yep.
I will second.
Seconded by Tim. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion, any opposed, motion carries 6-0. And the next one.
Make a motion.
Yeah, you don't have to say.
All right,
it.
make a motion to approve the first reading of the policies listed.
And waive, can we say that?
That should be probably a third one.
That should be his third motion. Okay. Motion made by Mac. Second by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. And then the third motion.
I make the motion that we waive the second reading approval to board policy 802.4.
Motion made by Sue.
Second.
Seconded by Donna. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor say aye. Motion carries 6-0. And next is the board calendar and upcoming
Special
agenda.
meeting on the 29th. Just note.
Oh, and we have to, next week is our IASB meeting.
Oh yeah, does anybody, I know
Can
Ben
we-
said no.
What day is that?
That's
Thursday.
Thursday.
That's the 8 to 4 on Thursday.
I can drive if any of you guys want to meet and ride up like last time, that's fine. Or whoever. Thank you, George.
And next Wednesday is also American Education Week, is that?
Yep.
That's so.
Next Wednesday, American Education Week, from 2:15 to 4 o'clock, we'll have a recognition over at the middle school.
Next Wednesday.
Okay, so it's Thursday, November 17th, 8 to 4. And then it's
Wednesday, the 16th from 2:15 to 4 o'clock at the middle school, we'll have a celebration. Pizza Ranch is providing breakfast, or not breakfast, but dessert pizza and coffee and water for all staff.
You said that's at what time?
What's that?
That's at what time?
2:15, it begins until 4.
Oh, that's a professional, or early.
Yeah.
If you want to get Mimi, we told her, we can't have a HR meeting next Thursday because we'll be up there.
Oh, yeah.
And Bev's out of town. So we told her, but she said, well, we haven't decided who's going to be on the committee. We decided, and we didn't say anything to her, so.
I'll email her tomorrow, let her know.
So no HR is what
Anybody
you're
else
saying?
going?
HR, yeah.
No HR, okay.
Next Thursday? You're going next Thursday?
Yeah, I think so. I'll double check and let Jonah know.
I don't know. Did Ryan say anything about it, Jonah? Next Thursday?
No, I just, what I sent you guys, I have Rob, Sue, and Donna, right? Those are the three, and Ben said he can't.
I'm a tentative.
What's that?
I'm tentative.
If you can let us know by tomorrow, that's the deadline. If you let us know by noon, if that'd be okay. Okay. Okay.
All right.
John, will you send out a reminder for that 29th thing at 5 o'clock?
I will, yes, I will. Yeah, no, and we'll have documents, because again, it's, I mean, it's in triplicate. So Rob will sign a lot, I'll sign a lot.
Does 5 o'clock work for you, Tim?
What's that?
That night, the 29th?
Oh, yeah, I can make that work. On those special work sessions, I can make that work.
It shouldn't be long, but I'm thinking that we might get some HR thing, or some,
Some other thing.
personnel things that add in there, and we might as well do those to keep these shorter, so, okay?
That's a Tuesday.
That's a Tuesday, yeah. After Thanksgiving.
Okay. Anything else, anyone? Make a
Then-
motion.
Oh, I can ask later.
Go ahead.
Make a motion to adjourn meeting.
Okay, motion made by Beck. Seconded by Sue. All those in favor say aye.
So tomorrow's meeting from 3